This video is designed to help you start working on homework 1. So if you open up our Canvas page, you can come over here and click homework 1, or you can go to assignments. And once you're in assignments, homework 1 is at the top. You click there, they both take you to this page. You can download the Word document if you want an overview of what homework 1 is, or download the Quarto document if you want to be able to go ahead and edit and do your homework assignment. So I'm going to click this download link here. It will download it up there, and we'll be able to open up homework 1 in RStudio. So here's our RStudio environment. We're looking at homework 1. We have all of this is already typed up for you. It's the instructions and then the data set. And then each of these is a code chunk. So this will be at the top of every homework. You'll have a package loading code chunk. It says echo and output. These are both options. Echo is whether or not this code should be displayed when you render the document, and output is whether or not the output from this code, which will show up down here in the console, will show up when you render the document. So we have echo and output both set to false, which means everything in here will run when we render the document, but won't show up in the output in the Word document that we're creating. So let's scroll back up to the top. This top section up here is called a YAML, Y-A-M-L. It has all the information about the document. So it's homework 1. We would like to echo and evaluate every single section of code. So we want to see the code, and we want it to be ran and shown when we publish the document, when we turn it in. Your professor or me is going to want to see what you typed and the results of that code. Format, we're going to do a docx or a Word document. You can change this to PDF if you would like. And then we want the chunk output to be in the console, so if you run individual code chunks, you can see the output down here. So I am going to add one more thing. We're going to put an author here, and we will just say the author is Bruce Wayne for this homework assignment. That way it will say up at the top who did this homework. So that's everything with the YAML. Let's go ahead on down. Here's the instructions for the homework. Here's the first data set that we're going to want to bring in. And down here, we have another code chunk, right? So this will automatically run. It's going to load in tidyverse, GT, ggpubber, and gtrends-r. We'll need all 4 of those to complete the homework. Let's start with the first question. And the first question says create a table including both the mean and standard deviation of x and y. So the first thing we need is to bring in the data frame because we don't have it. It is over here. It says the environment is empty, right? And our data frame was up here. So I have a printed copy of the homework in front of me, so I can see category is AAA, BBB, CCC, and then time is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then x is 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 1, and y is 2, 4, 4, 3, 2, 4, 4, 2, 3. So the first thing we need to do is bring in that data frame. Usually we call a data frame df, so I'm just going to type in there df, and now I'm going to make a data frame. So to make a data frame, I'll type data.frame. And now I can put whatever I want in this data frame. So I'm going to hit enter because I'm going to add a lot of things here. The first thing we want is a category. So I'm going to type the word category. And category should be a list of letters. So to make a list, we have to type C. Let me open that up. Now we can enter the list of letters. We need the letter A. So we'll put in quotes the letter A, and then a comma, and in quotes the letter A, and then a comma. So now I have A, and A, right? So I have 3 A's. Now I need 3 B's. Quotes B, in quotes, comma. Quotes B, in quotes, comma, quotes B, in quotes, comma. Now I need 3 C's. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So if I were to run this code, I can hit Control Enter just like I normally would, and that will run the code. And now I have a DF up here, and it ran that code down there. Right. I could also come up here and hit this play, and that will run the current code chunk. That'll do the same thing, right? Ran everything in between these 3 ticks and these 3 ticks down there and made DF, right? So I won't clear that yet. So in DF we have one variable it's the category, and it's AAA, BBB, CCC. We still need time, X, and Y. So I want to add to this time, which equals a list, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Right? And I'll put a comma after that and add to that X, which is going to be equal to 1, 2, oops, a list, so C, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 1, and finally the last variable is Y, and Y is also a list. Y is C, 2, 4, 4, 3, 2, 4, 4, 2, 3. Now I can hit Control Enter. Now I'll execute that code, and you can see over here DF category, time, X, and Y. I can open DF if I want to look at it, and this table should look just like the table I asked for in the homework. So that's perfect. There we go. Now I have that. I was asked to create a table including both the mean and the standard deviation of X and Y. All right. So now I have DF, and I need to perform some transformations to DF and get the mean and standard deviation of X and Y. So let's add a comment so when we come back and look at this, we can see what we're doing. We want to calculate the mean and standard deviation of X and Y. So we want to calculate the mean and standard deviation of X and Y. How can we do that? Well, let's make something new. We'll make mean SD X, Y. So that's going to have the mean and standard deviation of X, Y. When we write out variables, it's helpful to write as short as you can and as descriptive as possible, right? So DF is data frame, and then mean SD X, Y is the mean and standard deviation of X and Y. So for this, we're going to make another data frame, and I'll go ahead and enter. So everything inside the parentheses is going to be in our data frame. We want variable to be equal to a list X and Y, right? And then the next variable that we want is going to be the mean. And the mean is going to be the mean. So a list, we want the mean of DF $sign X, right? And then we want the mean of DF $sign Y. All right, so before I go forward, one thing to notice here, I've got these words capitalized, these variable names capitalized, and these names I did lowercase. I capitalized this X and this Y, and I probably should not have. I'm going to go ahead and change those back to lowercase, and I'll change these back to lowercase. The reason we don't like to use capital letters is R is case sensitive, right? So what that means is if I typed a capital X in here and it's a lowercase x, R will not be able to find it. It cares about the case of the letters. So I always use lowercase letters for everything when possible. These are capitalized because I'm creating a table that will be a final document output. So I'm going to capitalize SD, and that's going to be a list of the standard deviations of X, DF $X, and DF SD DF $Y. Okay, so if I come up here and run this whole code chunk, if I click play, it'll run this whole code chunk again. I'll end up with a new DF that'll have a lowercase x and a lowercase y, and then it will have an error when I run mean SD XY. The reason it will have an error is because of this capital X here, so it's going to be able to find. So if I hit play up here, this will run the whole thing. I get a warning message, argument is not numerically logical, returning missings. If you look at this, we have a missing for the mean of X because it did not like this capital letter. So if we get rid of that capital, boop, get a lowercase. All right, we can hit play and that'll run the whole thing. And we can look back here, and there's our mean of x is 2. We can also run each of these individually by just clicking anywhere in the code chunk. Then Control Enter. Now we have df. We can Control Enter again, and now we have mean sdxy. All right, so let's say we're happy with that and we want to save it. We could always click this little save icon here, or we could click the render button up here. All right, so if I hit render, this will make a Word document. Render, it's going to take us to background jobs, and it's going to go through. So now it's package loading, and then it's running Q1 all the way down through, and now it is completed. All right, after you open that Word document, it should say homework 1, and it'll have your name if you added author right there. And then down below, where question 1 is, it'll have all of your R code. So df is a data frame, and everything we entered is the data frame, and then mean SD is right here. But then we don't have the table for mean SD, right? And the reason we don't have it is we never called for it. So if we go back to RStudio, we can now call mean SD, say mean SDXY. So if we execute that code, if we hit Control Enter, we're going to end up with this variable mean and SD. If you'd like to be a little bit fancier, that GT package that we loaded stands for Great Table, and it will transform this data frame into a table. So if we click Render again, we're going to get an error. So I'm going to go ahead and do that so you can see what the error is. It'll run through everything and permission denied. So when you get this error, that means it was not allowed to save the file. And the reason it's not allowed to save the file is we still have the file open. Right? So we have to close the Word document, or it cannot change the Word document. So now the Word document's closed, we can render it again. And once it works through all of the R code, it will render a Word document. We can go back and reopen homework 1. Now it will have all of our R code and the table, the variable, the mean, and the standard deviation. Okay. So let's go back down here. Now question 2 is saying create a table including both the mean and standard deviation of x and y separated by category. So the first thing we need to do if we want it separated by category is make a data frame where they are grouped by category. So we're going to make something new. So let's go ahead and call this something new. We want mean SD by category, right? And that should have an underscore in there. Underscore. So there we go. Mean SD by category. And that is going to be using df, our data frame. And then, remember that's our pipe operator. It's short for and then. That's the old school way to do it. There's been an update in R, and now default R has this vertical line and a greater than sign that also is the pipe operator. It just means and then. So we want to open df, and then we would like to group by category. We want to group by the variable category. All right, so after we've grouped by category, we would like to take the mean and the standard deviation. So we want to make new variables. So we're going to summarize. And those new variables should be mean x. And the mean of x, actually let's call it x mean. X mean. The x mean is going to be mean of x. And then we want x SD, or standard deviation, and that's going to be the standard deviation of x. And then we want y mean. That's going to be the mean of y. We'll add a comma at the end of that. And then we need y SD, and that is just the standard deviation of y. And again, I capitalize these, but I shouldn't. That should be all fixed. So once we have all this code loaded, we can go ahead and run that code chunk, and we end up with mean SDXY. It has mean SD by category, and it has the category x mean, x standard deviation, y mean, y standard deviation, spread out by categories. For category A, the mean of x is 2. For category B, it's 2. For category 3, it's 2. And the standard deviation is 1, 0, and 1. And the same thing for y. So we'd like to print that table. we want it to be pretty. If we just want to print the table and have it not be pretty, we can just call it mean SD by category, and it will print it in the Word document. If we want to go ahead and run this, first thing we need to do is make sure we have closed the old one. So I want to render it twice. We'll click render, and we'll go ahead and render that document. Package loading, question 1, question 2, and bam, we're done. Now we can open it to look at it. Homework 1, and Bruce Wayne. There's our code for question 1. There's our table for question 1. Here's our code for question 2. And here's our table for question 2. I think the GT looks a lot neater, so I want to wrap this in a GT as well. So I'll go ahead and close that. And I will wrap this in a GT. All right, so notice when I hit render, it has a little progress bar, and it says loading packages, or package loading, and then Q1, and then Q2, and then Q3. That comes from right here. That way, when it does have an error and doesn't run, you can see where the error was and go immediately to that code chunk. So let's go back to the console. We need to use ggplot to create a scatter plot of X and Y. Make sure your plot has a title and a legend. Differentiate the categories based on different colors, and use different shapes to show the time period. So all we want to do here is make a picture. We're going to put X on the X-axis, Y on the Y-axis, and we want to use ggplot. So here we are. Let's get our cursor up there. Creating a scatter plot of X and Y. So I want to use ggplot. And we've already set a theme up above, so we just need to say that we want a scatter plot, so that is geom point, and our data will be df. And then what do we actually want to plot out of df? That goes in the aesthetic. On our x-axis, we want x. On our y-axis, we want y. We would like to color the points by category. And we would like the shape of the points to be, time. All right, we'll go ahead and run that and see what we get. Problem while computing aesthetics. First layer, continuous variable cannot be mapped to the shape aesthetic. Okay, so the issue we have here, df is numbers, 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 and characters. So we can go ahead and use category for color because it's a character string. Time is a numeric variable, so it will not allow us to use that for the shape. So we need to change the type of variable that time is from a number to something else. I'm going to go ahead and change that to a factor variable, and that just means instead of treating 1 as the number 1, it's going to treat it as a categorical variable called 1, right? So now if I run this again, I should end up, there we go, with a plot that has different dots at each x and y with different time periods and different categories. So this dot is time period 1, x was 2, and y was 3 for category B. Cool. So the last part of that, it did ask for some labels, so titles and axis labels. We can add those with labs. Let's do a title, and our title will be scatter of x and y, or we should probably just call it a scatter plot. Scatter plot of x and y. We need the x-axis. Well, it's already called x, but we can make it a capital X. And we want our y-axis to be capital Y. And then color, we want to change that category to be capitalized. So we will go category and shape. Because we want time to be capitalized. Will be time. Now if we run that again, it should make those changes. There we go. There's that plot for question 3. If you'd like to check and make sure it still works in the Word document, you can go ahead and click render. It'll render it. When it's done, we can load it. There we go. And now I got question 1 and an answer. question 2 and an answer, question 3, R code, and a scatter plot. We did not set a theme at the top, so let's go ahead and fix that, because that gray theme is quite ugly. So if we go back to the top, up here, and this one, we can do a theme set, and we can set it to any of the themes we want. I'm going to do theme BW, and I'm going to say base size 14. Whoops, I don't have a number lock on. Lock 14. There we go. And if we re-render, we're going to get an updated scatter plot. And come back here. That's updated. New picture. Scroll on down to question 3, and look at that. So much better. Not gray. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and do number 4. And use ggplot to create 2 separate line graphs, one for X and one for Y of data over time. Make sure your plot has a title. Use the same colors to denote category as you used for question 3. So we want to, again, use ggplot. And this time we want a line graph, so geom line data is df aesthetics x equals x. Is that what we want? Use ggplot to create 2 separate line graphs, one for x and one for y. So x is going to be time, and y is going to be either x or y. So let's start with x. Y is going to be x, and color is category. So go ahead and run that. We can take a look at it. There we go. We have X on our Y-axis. We have time down here on our X-axis. And we have category over here. We want to make a couple more quick changes, or labels, I guess. Labs. Title is going to be, in quotes, X. We'll say line graph of X over time. X is going to be capital T time. Y is going to be capital X. And color is going to be category. If we run that, we have a line graph of X over time with X over here, time down here, and category here. Don't worry about the theme. That we set up in the first code chunk. So we need to do the exact same plot for Y. The easiest way to do that is come up here, copy this whole thing, paste it over itself, and paste it again. And then we can get rid of this X here. And change this X to Y. All right, so all I did was I copied our first plot, I pasted it, and I changed X to be Y. So the first graph is line graph of X over time. This one is going to be a line graph of Y over time. If we run this, we get a line graph of Y over time. If we click render, that'll give us our new up-to-date document. There we go. So reopening the folder just reopens everything in it. See, there's my updated document. And now we have table for question 1, nice table for question 2, code and a picture for question 3, code and a picture, and code and a picture for question 4. Cool. So question 5 says comparing the plot you created for question 3 with the plot you created for questions 4. Which do you prefer and why? And give at least 3 reasons. Right, so question 4, we have this over time and this over time. In question 3, we have this, which shows both variables and time simultaneously. So if I wanted to try to answer that question, there's a couple of different ways you could do it. Let's go back here to R. I did not create a code chunk, so one thing you could do to answer that is just give yourself some space and start typing and say, I like the graphs from question 4 because line graphs are my this Word document. If we go ahead and hit render on that, that will go ahead and add this as regular text into the Word doc. It's done. There we go. So here's your answer that we just typed for number 5. I don't particularly like that when I'm going to grade the homework because it does not stand out as an answer for me when I'm trying to grade it. Another way you could answer this question is you could make a code chunk. So 3 little ticks, and then R makes a code chunk, and then we want to label it as question 5. And then 3 little ticks closes the code chunk. And now this is all R code. If you want to make it a not executable R code, you got a comment, and now there's a comment. I like graphs from question 4 because line graphs are my favorite. If we click render, let's go ahead and make the document. There it is. And scroll on down to question 5, and now we have R code that's easy for me to find and grade. Both ways are correct. I prefer the R code. One other way you could do it that I'll show you real quick is without R code. You can put the single ticks on both sides, and that will put it in a different font that looks like computer language font. So it's a similar font that RStudio uses. And it'll look different than the font that the rest of the document uses. If you'd like to just type up your answers, I would really prefer if you did it that way so that it kind of sticks out, right? I like the graphs question 4 because line graphs are my favorite. That sticks out a little bit because it's a different type of font. Okay, so there's 3 ways to answer a textual question. You just type your answer. That's the hardest one for me to find, but looks the cleanest in a document. You could put the little end quotes or begin quote, single quote around it. It's right below the tilde if you don't hit shift. And that would put it in this font that matches kind of the R script font, or you could put it as R code with a comment. All 3 are fine, all 3 are correct, and will be graded accordingly. So good luck with homework 1, and we'll see you in class.